In this tutorial, you will learn how to correct a black tint to achieve a softer, velvety brown depth and tone.
My name is Tracy Hayes. Due to popular demand, today I'm going to be showing you some typical colour correction techniques that you all may often find yourselves in a salon situation. For these colour techniques, I'm using a block that many colour houses also use to teach their own students. The block has been broken up into 4 segments. On each segment, we'll be showing you a different technique for colour correction. Series 3, again, very common in a salon environment. Black tint, very heavy all on the ends, and the client wanting to go for a much softer, velvety brown.
Tracy begins her process by pre-lightening the tint using powder bleach with 6% 20 volume peroxide.
Okay, so here you can see we have black tint, or hopefully you can see on the screen, black tint, approximately sort of 6 to 8 regrowth, and the final desired result is going to be a sort of much softer brown. So I'm using bleach, a powder bleach with 6%, and just applying it on each section and using foil just to keep each area a little bit more intense so that you can get a good even lift. Taking my next section. Now obviously, because my final result, or my desired final result, is wanting to be a nice sort of rich brown, I don't need to lift the bleach up to a blonde, but just to get away from the heaviness that the black has created. Possibly, if you're working on a much lighter base colour and you were worried about the bleach travelling up to the root area, you could always apply very fine sections of cotton wool between each area. In this case, I'm not going to use cotton, as the base colour's dark and I'm wanting a finished dark colour, and I've got a reasonable amount of regrowth area for me to work on. Although I'm taking fine sections, please be aware that you are applying enough bleach, because between the foils it can get warm, and sometimes powder bleaches do have a tendency to dry up. So it's important that you have enough product on the hair. I'm using powder bleach here, but obviously depending on what product house you're familiar with, you might be using an oil bleach rather than powder bleach, but I would apply or use it in exactly the same way. When using maybe an oil bleach, just be mindful that it doesn't get too warm and it actually starts to run through the hair. When doing a technique such as this, I would always divide the head into 4 quarters and work methodically on 1 quarter at a time, so that if the colour, the black tint or whatever colour you were trying to lift out, did lift really quickly, maybe the hair was quite porous, you could rinse off each quarter section by section. I would always personally start in the back and work up towards the front hairline, simply because if the back areas needed to come off first, you can easily rinse them off at the backwash without touching the front area. I think often people can be a little bit scared of colour correction in a salon situation, which is why it's good to just go through the basic rules. I'm lucky enough to often work on shows and teaching where I come across this sort of work quite often. In the salon that I'm based in, Environment, we often do show work, collections, and quite often, you know, the models, you know, even if they're from agencies, they need to change their look. So it's just building up the confidence really as to know how far you can push the hair without obviously damaging it beyond repair. Points that you need to be aware of before attempting something like this is what is underneath the black tint. If my client or model I knew had previously been bleached, then this is not something that would be a good idea, because you could really damage the hair and cause breakage. I would only attempt it if I know the hair is good, healthy and strong, and there's not too much chemical processes underneath, and that your client or model in the chair was really quite relaxed and not too uptight. If you had someone where the condition wasn't great or they're a bit nervous, then the only way to do it is really to grow the colour out slowly. And looking after the hair after the final result really will all depend on the initial porosity of the hair. The colour may fade after a few weeks, because obviously you've bleached the hair. In that case, the colour can always be sort of kept up to date, maybe just with semi-permanent, so you're not putting too much more harsh chemical onto the hair. But every head of hair is going to react slightly differently. You'll have some heads that you put the colour on and that's it, it won't fade at all. Other heads of hair where the hair's a little bit more porous may need a little bit more attention. But I think every head needs to really be dealt with individually. Okay, so once the final section has been applied, cover it. I'd recommend always to keep an eye on the bleach processing and check maybe about every 15 minutes. Every head is going to react slightly differently, some quicker than others, so I would not give you a set time to leave it on, but always check.
Now revise Tracy's method and try it on your own block, mindful of points to watch. 1. It is important to assess the history in order to avoid further stress on the hair. Tracy recommends good conditioned hair for this technique and would not attempt it if there had been previous bleach under the black. 2. In order to avoid bleach travelling into the root area, apply foil in between each section. You could also apply fine sections of cotton wool to the root for extra precaution. 3. Be mindful of sufficient product as powder bleach tends to dry out. 4. When using this technique on a full head, work in quarter sections to accommodate unpredictable lift times. Tracy recommends you work from nape to front, as the nape has easy access for washing if the product is quick to lift.
Series 3, the checking of it. Okay, so once the bleach has been on for about half an hour and checking, and you can see that's really lifted up very well to sort of like a golden brown, so I would say that's time to shampoo it off, because it's the finished result is a nice rich velvety brown that we want. There's no need to lift it any lighter. Okay, so you can see my black tint has lifted really very well. Don't be too concerned if it's not a completely even lift, because we're depositing colour going to a nice brown, that will even everything out. Also, you can see I left it off the root area, so you will have darker areas through the root, which is absolutely fine. It was, I didn't want the bleach purposely on the roots, otherwise you'd have got a very strong bright root glare. And just applying your final application, I'll apply it on the roots and take it straight through to the ends. And I'm using a mixture of a level 5 and a level 6 with a little bit of brunette tone in there. So a little bit of warmth, but without actually adding red. Okay, here, when I apply the colour, I personally like to comb the hair through just to make sure I've got it evenly distributed, and also sort of by just working your sort of fingers through it, massaging it through, just to make sure you've got a nice even coverage and with plenty of product. I always think that it's better to have too much product rather than too little, so you get sort of maximum coverage and, you know, nice shiny finish to the hair. Okay, and just working on your last section. And I would keep an eye on this. It may not need full development time because the hair is obviously more porous because it's been bleached. And if you're using a dark colour, possibly a little darker than what I've used, you do have the chance that the colour may go down too quickly and you end up with very dark, heavy ends again. So I would just keep checking it sort of every 10 minutes, and maybe after about 20 minutes, that's enough rather than the full sort of 35 to 40. But as I said, just keep watching.
Now revise Tracy's method and try it on your own block, mindful of points to watch. 1. Don't worry if your pre-lightened colour is not completely even, as the depositing of the next colour will even this out. 2. Be aware of even distribution of product by combing through and massaging the colour. 3. Be mindful to apply sufficient product.
Okay, so this is the finished result of, originally we had black tint with a small regrowth, something that you'd often come across in the salon that a client would like to steer away from the hardness of a black tint. So bleached out and then tinted using a level 5 with some brunette tone, 6%, and you can see that we've got this lovely, glossy, rich brown, shiny, healthy looking hair.